Welcome to Joke Story Trick Live with Michael Kent. I'm him. Let's go. Welcome to Tuesday night, everybody. My name's Michael Kent. Thank you for joining me. Tonight, we are super lucky to have Todd Robbins on the show, and you are going to love him. Later on tonight, we're going to learn a trick with a rubber band and a ring. So if you have those things somewhere in your house, go get them. At this point, if there are two of you watching, send the one that's least interested in the show to go and get those items. And also, stay tuned because in a little bit, one of you is going to help me pick a joke from an old joke book. It's not rehearsed. I don't know what the joke's going to be. We're just going to make sure that it's something appropriate for the times. So stay tuned for that. Let's see what's happening in the chat tonight. We've got Jamie Matchett, host of Best Magicians You've Never Heard Of. Did I say that right, Jamie? We've got Mark DiTullio, Patreon subscriber. Mark. Thank you for joining. We've also got Mitch.
Money making Mitch.
Which means Andrew's probably also watching.
Andrew.
And ain't no party like a sideshow party, says Josh Chalkin. So we got a thumbs up from Todd on that one. And then Mark DiTullio. Mark says, great hat. Thank you very much. This is, we were talking in the pre-show party. For those of you just tuning in, if you don't know, at 8 p.m. on Twitch, I do a pre-show party. It's just me hanging out. It's not scripted. It's listening to music. And we were talking about how since we've got COVID going on, I've got COVID hair, and that makes me wear a lot of hats. So Joel Casas and Paul Love Japan are new to the show, and we really thank you for being here. I appreciate the jokes. And speaking of jokes, let's get going straight into the show, and let's just do your stupid news. In the stupid news today, a new factory in France will mass produce bugs as food, which is cool, but health inspectors are confused whether they can still give them an A rating with bugs crawling all over the place. People in Netherlands have taken to hugging cows as a new sort of emotional therapy. Psychologists think this could be useful in dealing with conflicts, saying, it's a great way to squash a beef. I'm sorry about that one. The stakes were just too high. And I butchered it. Sorry, I'll stop milking it. I just thought I should grab that headline by its horns. Don't get all moody. These puns are utter nonsense. Sorry, these are stock jokes. Okay, I'm done. I swear. An Illinois man has kept a sandwich that Richard Nixon half ate 60 years ago. When asked why he kept the sandwich someone else ate, he said, I am not a cook. An 11-year-old in Louisiana was charged after allegedly stealing a school bus and engaging in a police chase. The boy claimed it was just part of his Miss Frizzle Halloween costume. And finally, a group in Montana is using hungry bears to test the durability of coolers. The results revealed some of the coolers were too fragile, some were too tough, and some were just right. This has been your stupid news. That news was indeed stupid. Some of the stupidest we've done. If you're watching on YouTube tonight, please do me a favor. Click that subscribe button and make sure that you click the bell icon next to it. Down here, there's a little button that you can, in the corner, you can click. And that way you'll never miss a show. Also, if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch, please do the same and follow me because every set of eyes helps, and I greatly appreciate it. Listen, we're all stuck inside of the we're all stuck inside of our houses, and we're isolated as hell. So when I see people's names come up right here, when you follow me, it'll show up right here. It always makes me super happy. It makes my heart warm. Paul Love Japan says, too many stupid news to select from. Genius. Josh just wrote unsub. I think that was because of the bad jokes. But regardless of all that, it is time to teach you how to magic.
Teach me how to magic. Teach me how to magic. Teach me how to magic. You ain't messing with my magic.
All right, so I'm going to perform this trick for you, and then I'm going to teach you how to do it. For this trick, there is an unfortunate thing that I have to do. This ring doesn't come off very easily, and I have to pop my knuckle to get it off, but I forgot to grab a different ring before the show. So we need a rubber band, and in this case, I'm going to use a knife to cut the rubber band, and you thread the ring through the rubber band, and I want you to watch the ring closely, because it's going to appear as if the ring begins to travel up the length. Look at that. It's going up the length of the rubber band. Up the length of the rubber band. I'm going to teach you how to do this. This is a trick you can do. All you need is a rubber band and a ring. You don't even have to, I like to break the rubber band. You don't have to do that. You can do it with the rubber band like this. If you don't break the rubber band, you thread the ring onto the rubber band. And it looks like you're just doing this. But really what you're going to do is right before you do the trick, you're going to grab most of the length of that rubber band. Most of the length of that rubber band is going to go inside your hand. So really what you're doing is you only have a little bit of rubber band here, and then you're just going to stretch that amount. So you've got all the rest of the rubber band in your hand, but you hide that like this. And the rubber band, the ring just sits on that rubber band. Now you slowly, with your bottom hand, with this hand, you're going to slowly start to let go, slowly start to release the rubber band. The ring's not going anywhere. The ring is staying. The friction from the ring on that band keeps it exactly where it is. The ring's not going anywhere, but you're letting go of the rubber band. But you can't really see the rubber band moving. It looks like the ring is sliding up the rubber band. Now, if you use a really light ring, you can do a really extreme angle like this. With this heavy ring, it starts to fall down the band, but look at this. You can do that really extreme angle. It looks like it's climbing up the rubber band. So there you go. And now, my friends, I have taught you how to magic.
Taste me how to
Magic.
Taste me how to
Magic.
Taste me how to
Magic.
You ain't messing with my
Magic.
All right. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that. And now, what Paul Loves Japan has a funny one. He says, "Oh no, what am I going to do now if Penn and Teller accept my audition?" Please do that on Penn and Teller. Please do it. Jamie says, "Love it. I still use it." I do it as well. I don't break the rubber band when I do it generally. I just use the doubled rubber band and pull it like this. It's great. People love it. And Paul, please do that on Penn and Teller. I did the multiplying bottles. If I did that, you can do the rubber band trick. So with that said, it's time for jokes. The 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Parks, asked her class which human body part increases to 10 times its size when stimulated. No one answered until little Mary stood up and said, "You should not be asking 6th graders a question like that. I'm going to tell my parents, and they will go and tell the principal, who will then fire you." Mrs. Parks ignored her and asked the question again. Which body part, class, increases to 10 times its size when stimulated? Little Mary's mouth fell open. Then she said to those around her, "Boy, is she going to get in big trouble." The teacher continued to ignore her and said to the class, "Anybody?" Finally, Billy stood up, looked around nervously, and said, "The body part that increases 10 times its size when stimulated is the pupil of the eye." Mrs. Parks said, "Very good, Billy." Then turned to Mary and continued, "As for you, young lady, I have 3 things to say. 1, you have a dirty mind. 2, you didn't read your homework. And 3, one day you are going to be very, very disappointed." Oh boy. So there's your joke from this week.
That's funny.
And Paul, if you do the rubber band trick on Penn and Teller, you have to also do that joke. That's just part of it. Somehow you have to work the two together. Here's a guest joke from Mitch.
Money making Mitch.
How did the hamburger introduce his girlfriend? Meet Patty.
You lose! Good day, sir!
Here's a joke from Stephanie Braun. What's brown and sticky? A stick. I like that one. And another one, this was from my friend Jonathan Burns. What's brown and chewy? Chewbacca. It's a good one. It's a good joke. Here's a long joke from Ty Argo, and I like this one. A girl walks into a fancy restaurant, says to the owner, "If you give me free food all night, I will entertain your customers and they will spend lots of money on food all night." Oh yeah, says the owner. How are you going to do that? Girl gets a hamster out of her pocket, puts it on the piano. The hamster runs up and down the keyboard playing the greatest piano music anyone's ever heard. That's incredible, says the owner. Have you got anything else? Girl gets out a parrot out of her other pocket, puts it on top of the piano. Hamster begins to play the piano again. The parrot sings along. Everyone in the restaurant is amazed and stays all night eating and listening to the hamster and the parrot. The owner is delighted. I must have these animals. Will you sell them to me, he asks. The girl shakes her head. Will you sell just one then, asks the owner. Okay, she says, I'll sell you the parrot for $100. The owner of the restaurant is delighted, hands over the money gladly. Another patron next to the girl says, don't you think that's quite cheap for such a clever parrot? Not at all, the girl replies. The hamster is a ventriloquist.
That's funny.
That's a pretty good joke. Here's a Halloween joke from Nina. Who was the best dancer at the Halloween dance? The boogeyman. Okay, and here's my favorite one of the week. This comes from Tammy Walkup. Today I stopped at this roadside... Be quiet, crickets. Okay. Today I stopped at this roadside stand that said lobster tails, $2. So I paid my $2 and the guy said, once upon a time, there was a lobster. That, my friends, is a good joke. That was my favorite one of the week. We've got, I want your jokes on the show next week, so you can submit them to me at Michael Kent. Todd is over on my screen on my right, and he's telling me he's leaving because of that joke. But that was a good joke. Some of them were very bad. If you could do better, please send them to me, michaelkentlive.com/jokes, or just send them to me on Facebook or something, because if you look at old joke books, jokes, they're just not good, and that's why every week we choose one of them. All of the jokes on this wheel represent joke book jokes that I have, or joke books that I have. So we're going to spin the wheel and see what joke we're going to do. All right, let's use Paul Love Japan this time because I think he's a new watcher. 1 and 2 liners is the book. This is 5,000 1 and 2 liners for any and every occasion by Leopold Fechner. So Paul, tell me a number between 1 and 256. My friend Eric Dittelman says this is the world's worst book test. Because one of these pages is going to have a book. Paul, just tell me any number between 1 and 256, and I will read a joke from that page. I do have to do a quick scan. Okay, so Paul says 132. All right, 132. Let's find that page, and we'll read a quick scan to make sure it's not going to be anything misogynist or racist or anything that I don't want people to hear. Okay. This is a list. The topic is heart. So here we go. She has a heart of gold, yellow and hard. That's pretty good. She has a big heart and a stomach to match. That's horrible. I said I wasn't going to read misogynist. My bad. She has a soft heart and a head to match. She has a heart as big. Okay, I'm not going to read that one. Her heart belongs to me, but the rest of her goes out with other guys. My heart belongs to daddy, but my liver is my own. These are horrible. Okay, the last one. The man we just passed had a healthy look. Yes, and he's still looking. These are horrible. All right, that's why these aren't the jokes in the show. But thank you for playing the game, Paul. And always unpredictable. We never know what jokes we're going to get. So thank you, Chad. Paul does say, I do have an appointment with my cardiologist next week. Oh boy, let's just get on to the next part of the show. It's time for stories. All right, so this is a personal story. I do not believe in ghosts. That's how every ghost story starts, right? I do not believe in ghosts. I don't believe that they exist. But that said, this is also a part of every ghost story. I saw something in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania that I can't explain. I travel a lot for my job, and every time I go to an older city, an older place, I go on the really hokey ghost tours. I love ghost tours where there's a guide that tells you usually made up stories, and they take you around to the different stories or the different places where those stories exist. And Gettysburg, Pennsylvania is one of the best places for those ghost stories. I've been many times, and 3 times ago this happened. So this was probably about 5 years ago. There's a very famous house in downtown Gettysburg where during the 3-day battle, it took over this town, and on day 2, the Confederate soldiers had pretty much taken over downtown Gettysburg. This is a house that is known as the Farnsworth House. This is a picture from 1863. The only civilian casualty in all of the 3 days of battle happened because of this house, because of Confederate sharpshooters in the attic of this home. They were shooting south toward the Union soldiers, and there was a woman cooking bread, and she unfortunately died in her own home. But what's interesting is if you look up at that window, this is a picture from now. You can see the bullet holes all over that wall. That south wall is still full of Union bullets trying to get the sharpshooters that were in that tiny attic window that you see there, the only attic on that side, trying to shoot the sharpshooters that were in that window. After the battle, they went into that house, and in the basement they had found several bodies, I think 6 bodies in the basement, and several up there in the Farnsworth house, up in the attic. This is the attic. That's the window. And if you were to turn around from this point of view, that's where I saw something I can't explain. I was in that room with about 6 other people, and we were part of one of these hokey ghost tours. And there was a little attic door. You had to duck to get into this part. An old set of steps led up to this attic, and there's a little attic door. And out of nowhere, no one nearby it, during the middle of this man's story, the door slammed shut, completely on its own. The guy sort of laughed, the guide. He walked over to it. He opened the door again. 10 minutes later, the door slammed shut again. There was no one near it. No one even near those steps. You would have heard him coming up the old steps. So finally, he went over, he opened the door a last time. And right when we were getting ready to leave a third time, the door slammed shut. It's as close as I've seen to a real live ghost. I've never seen an actual ghost, but that door sure as hell closed by itself 3 times. So the logical part of me thinks, well, if I own a home that's known for being a historic house that's frequently haunted, I'm gonna make damn sure that guests see a door slamming shut. But that's my story of the Farnsworth House, and I appreciate you guys going along with me for the hokiness and the sound effects. I always I want to look at the chat for a minute because Taylor is calling me out. Taylor, Patreon subscriber,
Taylor to the plate,
says, I don't believe in ghosts, but here's a story about me believing in ghosts. Every ghost story starts that way, including my own, but I really don't believe in ghosts. But it freaked me out, and it was enough to really, really scare me. I tried to pick guests for this month that were spooky, that had some element of spookiness to them. And this guest, I was super, super lucky to get. Tonight's guest is a magician, a sideshow performer, and a historian who is perhaps best known for his role, his incredible, successful off-Broadway show called Play Dead. It was written by Todd Robbins and Teller. Whether it be hammering a nail into his head, or eating glass, or telling chilling stories, this is a guest that you will never, ever forget. Please welcome my guest tonight, Todd Robbins. Hello, Mr. Robbins. How are you?
Oh, my father was Mr. Robbins, and he's dead. I'm just Todd.
Does he inhabit the Farnsworth House?
He's part of a sort of a spectral witness protection program, so I can't really talk too much.
Well, I'll call you Todd.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Kent.
How have you been doing during the pandemic?
Oh, fine.
You're in New York City, so it's been a rough go there.
Yeah, it has been challenging in a number of different ways during this whole time. It's very interesting because a lot of people got out of the city as things kind of shut down, and so it's no pun intended, a ghost town here. It's come back to life quite a bit, and yet it's still not quite what it was. And it was also it just seems like the crazies have kind of come out and taken over, and maybe the zombie apocalypse has actually happened in New York City. We just didn't notice it
right.
Because it is so different normally here.
I've had a few New Yorkers on. I had John Fugelsang on a few weeks ago, and he said, now that it's passed through New York and it's going to places like North Dakota and South Dakota, the New Yorkers get to be smug now. About we've been through it. Now it's your turn. So it's we got hit big time early on when we just didn't know much about what was going on, and every day had this is what it is. You touch a surface and you die. Oh no, actually you can touch a surface, you're not going to die. Yeah.
But if you get within 6 feet of anyone, you're going to die. Well, now, okay, if you wear a mask. So
and I imagine that'll continue, right? That'll that back
whatever.
And forth from the CDC will keep continuing as they keep learning more, and it gets frustrating, but
But that's science. That's the thing about it is that it is not a set of this is what it is, which is religion. Which, by the way, I would just like to point out. I was watching the Ring on rubber band thing. Religions have been started with less than what you just did there.
That's true.
I would just like to point that out.
It looks incredible, especially if you get a really light ring. It's a great trick, and I tried to do magic on this show that we teach people. That's not where I'm not giving away the farm, but still something that they can perform. You did this fantastic show that everyone should see called Play Dead. Now, is there a video of Play Dead that I can find somewhere to watch?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We worked very hard on the show. It actually evolved out of an earlier show that I was doing that was called Dark Deceptions. It was all about spiritualistic fraud. Redundant. But I digress. So it was a seance show in which I was very honest at the top of the show and saying, ever since 1848, when the Fox sisters made cracking sounds with their toes or whatever they did, the whole movement has been filled with fraud. And tonight will be no different. But however, if you look at what we're doing here through the eyes of a believer, it can be a very powerful experience if you use your imagination. And if you'll do that and play the role of the believer, I'll play the role of the medium. And so that's how it all started. And then from there on in, I played it straight out. But the problem is because I did that prologue and was very honest with the audience, every serious statement I made became a burlesque and got laughs. And it was effective, the show, but it didn't go far enough. So I wanted to take it further. A producer came on board and he said, you need a director. And we talked to several theater directors in New York, and they were like, you're doing performance. You're doing a magic show. I do theater.
Yeah.
And I do Shakespeare. It cures cancer. And I don't think I want to direct your little magic show.
Yeah.
And fortunately, the producer is the same guy who produced Stomp, the most successful performance theater piece ever. For 30 years, it's been going on, banging on things and, all that wonderful stuff they do in Stomp. So he has been laughing all the way to the bank with all the pretentious people that say this is not legitimate theater. Yeah. So he was the perfect producer for this. His name Alan Schuster. And he said, is there anyone you'd be interested in directing? And I'd already made a call to Teller. I known Penn and Teller for about 30 years now. And I called him. I said, I've got this thing. I need a director. I need someone to work and develop this with me. It's not what it should be. Would you be... Creaking door.
Oh, man.
I said, go ahead. You can walk through. This is the heir to the Robbins fortune. There you go. That's him. That's him. He died 4 years ago. So anyway,
I think he's a guest on the show next week.
It is very possible. So anyway, the end result was Teller said yes, and we started working on the show. We threw out everything I had done, and we just started a fresh blank page. And as Teller said, let's explore all the isms, not just spiritualism, but let's do Satanism, let's do witchcraft, let's do demonology, let's do spook shows, let's do everything, play with it and see what sticks. And so we developed this show, and it was a lovely experience. It took about 2 years. I would go out to Vegas, and he would come to New York, and we would spend time writing. And we ended up developing the show. We did the previews out in Las Vegas, and then brought it to New York and opened it, and it was well received. We had a little bit of a problem in that we opened about the same time that another little show called Sleep No More opened, which is it is the hallmark of immersive theater. It is an old building, an old warehouse that's been converted into a haunted hotel, the McKittrick Hotel. And it's 100,000 square feet that you put a mask on, like a carnival mask. No one speaks, and the show happens all around you. And everyone that goes in has a different experience as they rove through the 5 floors and follow the characters as they interact. And it's a glorious thing. And they had, a budget of $15 million, and we were a little off-Broadway show in a 200-seat theater. So they kind of got all the attention, but we did fine. But towards the end of the run, to answer your question, and forgive me, I'm the king of digression, which, by the way, reminds me.
We actually have a celebration for stuff like that. It's called the bonus story, and we get to have a drink when we do that. So
cheers. So the end result is that towards the end of the run, Teller said, we're going to be doing this again somewhere. And so he brought in a bunch of cameras and film crew and shot the show, and also all the behind the scenes things to document exactly how the show was done. And when he looked at the footage, he went, this kind of represents the show well. This looks good. And so he threw it to an editor and said, make a concert film out of this, which he did. The problem is no one signed off on it in regards to the designers, the light, the set, and the sound designers. And when they realized that he had a film of this, they came back and said, yes, we'll sign off the rights. I think it's a glorious thing that you've done, and it's going to cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
And out of principle, he just refused, since they'd already been paid well for their designs. And no one was going to make a fortune off of this thing. It was just something we were going to show every once in a while. That check was not written to them. So therefore, we really can't show it any place except for nonprofit venues.
Sure.
And so it
in a way, maybe that adds to the allure. It's a show. Yeah,
it's sort of like that lost movie that Jerry Lewis did, where he was a clown in a
I don't want to see that movie, though.
The
stills are enough.
Yeah.
The stills are enough.
So it does exist. Oh, that's the one with water. Damn. It does exist, and who knows, maybe one day. We did the show also at the Geffen Playhouse out in Los Angeles, and there's also talk about doing it again, reviving the show. So we'll see after we all come up for air, if we do.
Well, that would be something I'd love to see. It's something I've always wondered if we're going to be able to see Play Dead on the screen, especially now that we're all stuck inside and it's the perfect time for it. Now, I brought you on the show to tell a story, and that I'm assuming that wasn't the story that you had prepared to tell in the show.
No, it wasn't. I have many stories.
Okay.
I can tell one of my favorite ones.
I would love your favorite one.
It is about the development of Play Dead.
Okay. Let me full screen you.
And there's a little bit of adult language in this.
Oh, that's fine.
Good. I appreciate that. As we were developing, we did it differently than any other magic show in that we didn't have a trick and then figured out a presentation for it. We went the other way around. We had an idea, an image we wanted to put on stage, an idea we wanted to express, and then figured out what we wanted it to look like, what the impact on the audience, and then sat down and scratched our heads and figured out how to do it. And one of the things that came up was we wanted to do something seance in the show, even though the show is a kind of a ghost story. It's a bare theater, a bare stage with a couple of pieces of furniture and a bunch of banker boxes, the white boxes, storage boxes that have the names of real people. They're all dead. All the people had a relationship with death during their life. And though it's not explicit in the show, the idea is that because they had a relationship with death, they lived right on the line between life and death. And now that they've died, they're just the other side. And if I tell their story just right and fill you all, paint word pictures in your imagination of who they are, they live again. And in the box are personal items of these people. And if I use these, bring them out, they're like a beacon that calls them back into our realm of the living. And one of the people we wanted to kind of highlight was Marjorie, the Boston medium. Mina Crandon was her real name. And she brought sex into the seance room. She was a flapper from the 1920s. It was the jazz age. She was from a prominent family in Boston. Her husband was a well-respected surgeon. And she often did these invitational evenings, seances, and did them completely nude. She would be wearing a kimono, and then during the course of, as things got heated, the kimono would come off.
Wow.
And she would be completely nude. And things manifested. There's a thing called ectoplasm, which if you look up ectoplasm, you'll see all these things kind of coming out of the nose and the mouth, and it looks like cheesecloth because it is. And she took it a step further. She manifested ectoplasm out of other parts of her body.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, what I would have loved to have been in a room with her. I've met a couple people who actually, she died in the early 40s, and then a couple of old timers that were young and went to one of her seances, and extraordinary. But
I would say that I've seen something similar in Thailand, but that wasn't.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Not for this broadcast.
The town is called Bangkok. I mean, what do you expect? But I digress. So we were developing this, and we wanted to do something with Marjorie. And Teller said, how about we have a big table, a seance table on stage. We bring up people from the audience, seat them around the table. A woman comes out who represents Marjorie, beautiful woman, wearing a kimono. She takes the kimono off and she's completely naked. She climbs up on the table. She lies down on the table and is held spread eagle by the people at the table there, the seance participants. You put her into trance, you do an invocation, Todd, and then you reach into her vagina and birth from it a ghoul. I said, it works for me. How do we do that? He says, I have no idea. Let's call Johnny Thompson. Johnny Thompson
will help us.
Yes. So he gets on the phone and goes, hi, Johnny, it's Teller. I'm here with Todd. We're working on this show, and we have this thing. And he went through the beats of it. He said, seance table, people from the audience, naked girl, climbs up, spread eagle, Todd reaches her vagina, births a ghoul out of her vagina, a demon out of her vagina. How do we do that? And there was silence. And then Johnny said, well, there's 5 ways you can do that. And at that moment, I knew we had a show. I knew that whatever we wanted to come up with, because we had people like Johnny Thompson working with us, we could do anything.
That's amazing.
And we did.
And that tracks with every story of Johnny Thompson, which we miss dearly, of course. Oh man, thank you so much for sharing that with us. What a fantastic memory. And so we do a thing in addition to telling a story. I love when guests come on and tell jokes or do tricks. Now I know you have jokes and tricks. Would you share them with us?
Sure. It's up to you. How much time do we have here? I mean,
I say it's a 45-minute show, but generally,
Okay, people take off your shoes, take off your pants.
It's Tuesday night. It's time to party.
Yeah, Tuesday night. We'll be finished around Friday. Okay. All right. Well, here. I got one of these things. I got one of the. I'm not afraid to use it. I have one of these things. Now, here is the question: if I have this thing and I take this away and put it in my pocket, the question is, what do I have in my hand? One or none? I know you want to say two, but there's only two choices to be made. Very much like an election this year. Two choices to make, one or none. So which is it, Michael? One or none?
I would say one.
Ah, you're wrong. The correct answer is none. The correct answer is none. None is the correct answer. None is the correct answer. I would do it again, but it's habit forming. Oh, you see,
man.
it's just like comedy.
You know, I wish that this show had a pun counter, because I really ran it up during the cow jokes, and
it was pure punishment.
It was, and when we were doing the jokes for this week, I just said cows lend themselves to such punnery.
And that's no bull.
The chat says we're given applause here. Great balls of lint, says Johnny is sorely missed. Of course, Faye Ballard says always a pleasure to watch, Todd, and something about golden tablets. I think we were back further in the show there. So do you have, so that was kind of a joke and a trick.
Yeah.
I think that counts for both, because we've got some puns in, and if that does count for both, indeed, what we have just done is the trifecta. Which means, Todd Robbins, your name will forever live in perpetuity in the credits of this show for literally several people to see. What's that? I'm sorry?
He shoots, he scores.
That's right. Absolutely. And I would expect nothing less. We're down to the last segment here, which is called What the Shit Is This?
Mm-hmm.
You have inspired me this week. I don't know a whole lot about Sideshow, and you do. And last week we had Brett Loudermilk on the show, who mentioned you when I asked him sort of how he got started. Brett Loudermilk we had on the show.
Well, I heard you. I just said I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
Hey.
It keeps going. It keeps going. And I just started Googling Sideshow stuff, because I know a little, what the general public knows, but I was looking for strange Sideshow pictures for this segment. And what I found was this. Yep. These are babies on display at Coney Island. Yep. And it turns out that Coney Island for some time put premature babies on display as an exhibit, which on its face seems super cruel. But you know more about this than I do. Tell us what we're looking at.
We're looking at a show that was put forth by a man named Dr. Martin Coney. He was a Polish physician who, though he didn't create the idea of the incubator for premature babies, he was an advocate of it. And though it was somewhat accepted in Europe, it was unheard of in the United States. He came over here in the early part of the 20th century, actually probably the later part of the 19th century, 1890s. And he came over here and he tried to convince hospitals that this was a viable form for saving premature babies, keeping them warm and allowing them to thrive. And no one was interested. No one was interested. So he wanted to kind of cut out the middleman and do a proof of concept. So he went to Coney Island, and the first setup was done at Dreamland, which was where the aquarium is today at 8th Street and Surf Avenue. And he set up basically a sideshow, a grind show, as they say, which is sort of like the world's largest horse or the world's smallest woman or whatever, that you kind of pay your money, you go in, you look, and you kind of get the whole story, and you go out, as opposed to a 10-in-1 sideshow, which has a sword swallower and fire eater and things like that. So he set up this thing that had premature babies, and there were plenty of them, in incubators, and people would come and pay their money and look at these strange little creatures. And during the course of it, first at Dreamland, and when Dreamland burned down, fortunately, the premature babies were not there when the fire happened. It was before the season started, and they were at a local hospital that he had made arrangements with, that during the winter, that's where they went. And then he moved over to Luna Park and was there for many years. And it's estimated he saved several thousand lives. There's actually a couple of people that are still around. I think he ended up closing it down in 1939. So it was basically from like 1903 to 1939
Wow.
he did this and saved thousands of premature babies.
That's incredible.
And it's so established the idea that now it's become something standard. So much so that if you go to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and go into the pediatric wing and go up to the pediatric ICU, there is a neonatal unit that takes care of extreme cases, and it is dedicated to Dr. Martin Coney.
Wow. It's incredible.
So there you go, and there
That's
you have
incredible. And I love this story because on its face, when you hear this fact that premature babies were put on display for people to come and gawk at, it sounds cruel. But it's not. The number I saw was like 6,500 babies were saved because the hospitals wouldn't put them in these incubators and keep them alive. So it's an incredible story, an incredible history lesson, as one of our viewers has said. And man, I really love that story. We do have a question from the chat. Mm-hmm. Professor Questions wants to know what got you into eating light bulbs.
Well, the joke answer was I was traveling around and I stayed in a cheap motel, and the walls are very thin, and it was late at night, and I was trying to think of something I wanted to add to my act, a new stunt, a new bit. And I heard the couple in the room next door, and the guy said, "Honey, if you'll turn out that light, I'll eat it." I went, there you go. Very, very, very simple. I grew up in Southern California. There was a magic shop. I took lessons, hung out with the old timers there, and these guys were ancient. They had to be like 40 years old. And when I was about 12 years old, a sideshow came to our neighborhood, and I saw it, and it changed my world, because here was extraordinary demonstrations of remarkable abilities beyond the capabilities of the average person. And if you think about that, that's kind of a good definition of real magic.
Yeah.
So I went back to the magic shop after seeing that. It was a Saturday afternoon, and went back and sat around with these old timers. And I told them about what I had seen. I said, I'd really like to learn how to do all that stuff. And one of the guys had worked in a sideshow. And he said, "You want to learn how to do the dangerous stuff, huh, kid? Well, I can teach you, but don't tell your parents." Like, cool. I'm 13 years old. Like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So he taught me how to eat fire, and how to take a nail like this, and with a hammer, like it basically go like this, and do that.
Oh my God.
He showed me what is known as the human blockhead act. And excuse me, let me. Look! The test came back negative. So,
yes, new jokes.
Thank you. Old dog, new trick. So he showed me that, and I wanted to know where he had learned it. I want to know where it came from, where the origin of the stunt.
So you got into the history aspect of it right away.
Yeah, because I approached it with an amount of respect. He said, "You want to learn other stuff? I know some folks that do things." And he introduced me to a guy named Red, who did a human ostrich act, which he ate things. And one of the things he would eat, he would light cigarettes. It's sort of like Tom Mullica would do. He would light cigarettes and tongue them and chew them up, and matches. And he would eat a light bulb. And so I learned from him how to do it, and the proper way, what goes into it. And it's the one thing I've taught a lot of people how to do sideshow stuff. We have a school out in Coney Island that I started back about 20 years ago. And this is the one thing I don't, because if I'm doing the blockhead and I start to hammer nail in my nose and there's something goes wrong, I can stop.
Yeah.
If I'm swallowing a sword and the throat is irritated and it's not right, I can stop. But when I eat glass and I swallow it for 2 days, I'm playing Russian roulette. I have no control over it. So I don't really want to encourage anyone to do it. And if you would like to see me do this, I'm actually leaving tomorrow and going to Erie, Pennsylvania. Dreams do come true.
You're doing the Kellers?
Yes, I'm doing Kellers.
Oh,
I'm doing
awesome.
Kellers this weekend. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Fantastic. I'll be there in January, I think.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's great. Bobby Borgia.
I've not been, and I owe Bobby a phone call right now, but
it's glorious. It's
so Erie, PA, this coming weekend, you'll be there.
Yeah, Erie, Pennsylvania. So come on out.
Fantastic. Yeah, they're still doing shows. They're doing safe, social distance shows. Yeah. And where can people see you if they can't make it to Erie, Pennsylvania next week?
Well, one of the things I've done during this pandemic is I've sort of leaned into YouTube and produced a lot of content. I have a daily vlog, as these kids say, no cap. And I know I'm sus. So, but it's a daily vlog and it's fire. So yeah, I have a 12-year-old. So yeah.
I feel like you're reading these words.
Everything is, let's go. Just shut up. Just shut up. How old are you? 12. Do you want to live to be 13? Just stop it. So anyway, but he can hammer a nail into his nose, so he's a great kid.
That's great.
Anyway, again, I digress. So I have a YouTube channel, and I've done this daily vlog. This week, I'm actually taking off because I'm going to be out of town. But I've done it for 3 months now, every day. It's called This Day in Darkness.
Love it. And I'm going to
subscribe
right now.
Interesting trivia of all the terrible things that happened. That just kind of go to show you, no matter how bad your day is, it could be worse.
Oh man, this sounds super exciting.
Yeah, so it's you go to youtube.com/Todd Robbins NYC, TODDROBBINS NYC, all one word. And the channel pops up. And I also have 2 other little things which I haven't really gotten around to doing much with. One is called Down the Road Darkly, in which I go to various places that bad things have happened and tell the story at the location. The first one was the Cape Man murders, which is because it's right around the corner from where I live in Hell's Kitchen here. So it was an easy little stroll. I've got a couple others that I'm working on, including Albert Fish.
Yeah.
Oh, the great Albert Fish. The boogeyman, the Brooklyn vampire, who heard voices that told him not only to kill children, but consume their dead flesh. And the house where he did this, which was abandoned back in the 1920s, is now a lovely multi-million-dollar house, been renovated. It's up in Westchester, and I'm going up there and I'm telling the Albert Fish story there.
Fantastic.
Among other things. And then I have another thing called Deceptionations, which I talk about various topics and then do a little magic that's sort of related thematically. The first one is up and talking about persecution and execution and torturing of witches, appropriate for this time.
Sure.
And do a little magic thing that kind of shows what it's all about. So we've got 3 things on the channel, and it's the kind of thing you'll like if you like that kind of thing, and I think you will.
And the people who watch this show do like that type of thing. So I hope that they'll go to youtube.com/Todd Robbins NYC. Todd, it has been absolutely awesome to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening and celebrating this show with us. And feel free to stay on. I'm going to mute you, but feel free to stay on and enjoy the last part of the show, which is the trick. So thanks again, Todd Robbins. Thanks, everyone. I just wanted to say a quick note that once again, this show is kept alive because of my Patreon sponsors. So you can join for as little as $1 a month. For that, you get all kinds of exclusive content, including be able to watch me perform live magic shows. And the new thing is I have this weekly podcast called Tell Me What to Google. It has nothing to do with this show, it has nothing to do with magic, but every week someone tells me what to Google, and I either quiz a friend or talk to an expert about that thing, and I put the full unedited video up just for my Patreon subscribers. Even if you're not a Patreon subscriber, you should follow the show. Every Monday, a new episode. This Monday, we talked about a man who was known as the human lightning rod. He was struck 7 times in his life. Roy Sullivan was the topic of this week's show, and we go into detail about each and every strike. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I see all of the chats. I see all of the subscriptions and everything. Before we get going, there's just one last part of the show, and that is the trick. All right, for this one, I'm going to zoom in the camera just a bit, and we'll get a little bit of magic music because I want you to remember one of these 6 cards. Just remember one. Look at one card, remember that's going to be your card. If you're in a room with other people, don't tell them what card you're looking at, just keep it in your head. I don't want you to influence their decision. Keep that one card in your head. We're going to do a little shuffle. You're going to notice something. One of these cards has turned blank. Every time I do this, I lose one card, and this time I've lost this card. And strangely enough, folks, if you look at that card, you're going to find that is your card. The one that disappeared, your card. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Todd Robbins, we appreciate you. Tune in next week. We've got Rob Zabrecki on the show. We'll see you next Tuesday. Good night. Hey friends, over the years, I've had hundreds of unofficial supporters. Now, you can make it official. Join my Patreon, 4 different levels, tons of exclusive benefits, access, behind the scenes, backstage video, access to shows that you normally wouldn't get to see, producer support, credits, shout outs, VIP events, everything you can think of. And you can join for as little as $1 a month. So thank you in advance for your support. I love all of you.